Hello, once again. It is Write Once, Read Many, this time covering chapter 22.x. And Vic is here.
Just randomly, coincidentally.
Yeah, it
Doesn't
has.
have anything to do with the format.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello.
Hey, so, I have already turned down the music to a certain extent, so that it won't be too over us, but, let me grab the, link and get it out there. Say more hellos while I do this.
Well, hello. It's, I was gonna talk about the art a little bit, but I don't see it up. But,
whoops, I need to,
there's not much to say about it anyway.
No, it is okay. I will get it up in just a second. We go display window. Alright. We're seeing the speed draw now.
Oh, great. So excited for the speed draw. Okay, there's Charlotte, there's Forrest, there's Tattletale, there's Imp, there's Regent, there's Gru, there's Bitch, and they're all hanging out together in Brockton Bay.
I think the speed draw is super fun. Like, it's so short, but I also liked... I'm not sure where along this process, if he had a foot or... I gotta go back.
Something happened to Regent's foot.
Yeah.
But when I realized, I decided to leave it because
it's like a funny. Yeah. No, it's good.
I also drew. This is more my sister's child, style, where all their torsos are T's for some reason. But the hands are Victoria special. That is how I was drawing arms and hands for a long time.
Nice.
And smaller T's.
Smaller T's.
There's a lot of T shapes in this for some reason.
Yeah, and I like the leg shapes, very accurate leg shapes. They go upward and they connect at some point. Yeah.
And that is how legs usually work.
In the face, a circle, pretty good.
Yeah. So, and then there's something back there in the sky. I don't really know what's going on there. So, I don't know. I guess I forgot that was there. Really weird.
I like what Greg said before we had the art up. He said, "This is bold artwork showing the real darkness in the parahumans world."
This must be Gru's interlude chapter. I see.
Yeah. I had it set to the wrong display because I didn't think about the fact that it was set up to display a video game. Yeah. Anyway, now we've seen the true brilliance of Aiden. So
this was the drawing that he gave to Charlotte about his dream, but she was only paying attention to the background. I don't know why she was really dismissive of all the characters he added and stuff. Well, it was kind of fucked up, honestly.
It's so funny because one of my first thoughts when I saw this was after I was like, oh, this is great, was thinking like, oh man, in the future chapter when they re-look at that art, we could see in the normal Victoria Worm style the actual art of the trigger vision where he draws all the circles and dots to represent space.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, I feel like I could save this because I know that Charlotte shows it to Tattletale later or soon, right?
And then well, it's reasonably later. I think it's arc 26.
Okay. Well, I wanted to save it.
Yeah.
I definitely want to feature it, but
I like this where we get the alternate drawing that's just something else he would draw. Yeah.
This is his family. Tattletale and Charlotte's always obviously the biggest because she's the most mom. I was looking at a lot of children's artwork and how they'll draw the first person they think of first. Like, I feel like people think that when children do this, they like actually see, like they actually are envisioning like their primary parent as like the biggest one because they think they're most powerful. But I think that most of the time they just start drawing really big and then they're like, shit, I'm gonna run out of space.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So that was what I was going for.
Nice.
Charlotte's the primary parent, and then there's Forrest, and then Tattletale is kind of hangs out a lot and has a lot of influence, and then sometimes these other guys are here. And Perion and Flechette did not make the cut. They never come over to Taylor's house.
That's so funny. I mean, that's probably true at this point,
Yeah.
but yeah, they
For
shall.
future reference, for in the future, Aiden might change his mind, and Perion and Flechette will get some features.
Yeah. Well, you know who got left off the list? You know who really got spurned by this is
Oh,
Sierra.
Oh, well, Sierra is a girl boss right now. She's gone. Look,
She's too busy bossing.
She's been gone for like 2 weeks at this point, probably in Parahuman's timeline, which is like 2 years,
Yeah, exactly.
in real life. So that
Mhm.
was, it's fine. Also, Aiden doesn't support cultural appropriation. He could not draw those threads.
He's like, I can't in good conscience draw the dreads, so I could have you
Aiden,
slightly out
Aiden
of
is like
frame
a
with your leg.
Aiden is like a too woke, like to how old is Aiden right now? He's like 8, right?
He's pretty young, yeah. I think 8 sounds about right.
Okay. He's not old enough to be like this yet, but I would like to envision that he's spending too much time on Tumblr and he like doesn't it's like the theoretical versus actual kind of wokeness. Like he doesn't really know how to apply what he's seeing on Tumblr in person, and so he's just yelling a lot to everyone.
Yes.
Mostly Lisa, who does deserve it. Lisa, you're not a good ally.
You keep outing people.
You keep outing people all the time. It's like your favorite thing. I know she's only done it twice, but
It seems like it's all the time.
it but it's weird that it happened more than once, okay? It shouldn't have happened
I
twice.
think it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, where it's that thing where you go, well, I mean, it only happened twice, but it was weird when it happened the first time.
But
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would only have $2, but it's weird that it happened more than once.
Yeah. So I last minute question that I finally thought up was 22.x. Are you more in line with Charlotte or Danny's perspective on the orphan issue? Little orphan Danny.
Little
Um,
Orphan Danny.
so we'll discuss that later. Um, and then the weird thing was I came up with a question for the next chapter, like 5 minutes. Did not take long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the next chapter? What's the next interlude?
The next chapter is Lungs interlude. And I mean, my question is very like chapter specific to that chapter,
Yeah.
but you know, it
I
because
do
it's
feel
kind of
like
like
it's a
how it was
little bit
written.
more. Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more of a standout chapter, definitely compared to this one. Like, I could not, for the life of me, remember this chapter,
That's too
like,
bad. I
before
really
I
like this
started
one.
reading it. Well, I mean, when I started reading it, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot that, like, Danny just hangs out in the territory with Charlotte.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Um,
good.
do we want to? I know we don't have any written down for themes, but did we have any solidarity?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the biggest themes is like everyone has their thing. Like Charlotte at one point calls it like their monster or whatever, but it's because Danny calls Taylor a monster, and Charlotte's like, oh, everybody has their thing, and she's kind of thinking to herself about all of the kids and their kind of like reactions to everything. It's like I don't know. It's also like everybody reacts to trauma differently. It also like definitely comes from the perspective that like we should be accommodating other people and whatever type of issues or accommodation like they specifically need, I feel.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, also like just like how everybody has come together to support Skitter or Taylor in a different way, and like what they think is the best way to go about it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Everyone loves Taylor so much that even though she did this like big betrayal to them, they're like, how can we make Taylor proud of us?
Yeah. Well,
And I think that's sweet.
I think I don't know if I pulled the exact quote. But when Tattletale's like motivating everyone, and when Charlotte's motivating people, it's like always like we have to do it for Taylor.
It's very, what would Jesus do? What would
uh,
Taylor do?
yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, it's right here. It's she was prepared to leave us to our own devices when she surrendered. But if she believes in us to that degree, that's another reason we can't fail.
Yeah.
There were nods all around. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's all I have for themes. Do you have anything? I feel
No.
like Danny's like kind of going through a separate thing than like everyone else is going. So it kind of like he doesn't really fit into the same themes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty true. He is definitely like a foil perspective in terms of like he's so far out of whack with every other character. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess let's get into the recap.
Okay. So everyone in Skitter's territory is celebrating their customary quote unquote third night block party. I do just want to point out that it's crazy to say they have a block party every third night of the week because that day is always the same day. So you should just say we have a block party on Wednesdays.
No,
I'm also
I thought that
unsure if
what
it's
she meant
Tuesdays or
was
Wednesdays.
no. I mean, what I thought is what happened is that it's not a fixed day of the 7 day week. It's like every 3 days they have a new one.
It says it was customary now to have a block party every third night of the week. A
Oh,
mass barbecue, a bonfire on the beach, some big meal. But I think maybe what you're saying is maybe what we were aiming towards because I was like, what do you mean every third night of the week?
yeah.
It's always the same. Why didn't we say Wednesday? Which is what I would call the third night of the week, even though Sunday night is the first night of the week, but like, why would you? It's just a weird thing to say. Come on, Wildbow, get it together. Um, but they have like a big TV and like tent set up to keep an eye on the news and everything that's going on with Skitter. So after the Skitter Weaver reveal, Forrest says this is for the best, but Charlotte is not so sure. Um, and Forrest says that the most they can do is just wish her the best and support from afar, and he kind of goes off to clean up the party. So Charlotte gathers all the kids up, but one of the girls, Kathy, kind of challenges her on having to go to bed so early. And Charlotte reminds her that if she's too tired, then she won't be able to look after Jesse and Aiden. When Jesse, whom wets the bed at night, and Aiden has these like terrifying nightmares and sleepwalks and screams and stuff.
it works on
So
Kathy, but she's pissed.
yeah, Kathy is like she doesn't feel like overly responsible for these people. This is something that she like wants to be doing or whatever. So she kind of shuts up. So as they enter Skitter's lair, Charlotte closes the shutter and she has to like tug the chain and say out loud, "It's safe," so that Aiden can like quietly like accept the situation. Um, so she sends the girls off to bathe and she goes and checks parahumans online. And obviously all the recent posts and threads are about Alexandria and Skitter joining the wards and what's going on with the heroes. And Charlotte's like, oh, OMG, she's famous. And Aiden asks if it's because she was on TV. But Charlotte said it's because she was a bad guy who turned into a good guy. But the other boys, Ben and Ephraim, what do you think?
Ephraim,
Ephraim
maybe.
argue about whether or not Taylor was actually bad. It's like the same conversation that we've seen from an adult standpoint. But it's cute when the kids are doing it. um, so Charlotte hears some slight commotion outside, and she asks Ben to lock the shutter afterward, because she's gonna go check it out. Outside, there's a news van and a crew, which we recognize as Stan Vickery,
Mm-hmm.
the
And we're all
the
like,
only
man, he's so
reporter who hasn't
charming.
been killed.
Yeah. Who
A
could kill
blonde,
Stan?
charming piece of shit man is
Yeah.
outside.
Well, you know, the
Um,
thing is that he is actually, I know that like his channel played her outing or whatever, but I felt like he spun her in like a really sympathetic light to a degree that like would have been
yeah,
unexpected from other stations. So I almost feel like he is the one reporter they could semi count on because he would rather have the scandalous story about how awesome she was than have a
yeah.
mainstream take.
I feel like either Charlotte didn't watch the original story, or she like just saw maybe like a more negative clip,
Well,
or didn't recognize Stan,
it could easily
because
be
she
that
like
they
she
wouldn't
doesn't
get the
mention that
same.
she's seen this.
Yeah, it could easily be that they wouldn't get the same good coverage, like positive spin that they got the last
Yeah.
time. So they are being just a normal amount of cautious and probably making the right decision. But in my mind, like from a out of book standpoint, I'm like, I think Stan is actually the one guy who would have been like, no, she was dope, actually.
Yeah, if you got enough story that was like that. But
Also, oh, I just
yeah,
wanted
so
to quickly say I have reevaluated my stance. I looked at the name again, and I think like Ephraim might be right. I was
Ephraim.
misremembering how it was spelled and kind of going off the pronunciation in the audiobook. But I think it's up in the air. I've never seen this name outside of this book.
Yeah. Um so the residents are like not on board for Stan, so they're like surrounding them and being like, "Get the fuck out of here!" And Charlotte also jumps in and she's like, "We just want to be left alone." And Stan pulls the same bullshit he pulled at that we saw him pull at the school. He's like, "Even if I leave, others will come."
Yeah.
Um, and she says that they'll just tell them the same thing. We're all tired, we all worked all day, and we're not interested in scandals. And Stan offers out $200, and Forrest tells him to fuck off, which is funny. And I have a quote here.
World wants to know, what is she really like? The reporter asked. $200, your face on camera. If you love her, don't you want people across America to hear something good? Best support you can give. If you hate her, well, the opposite's true, isn't it? You'd twist our words around, Forrest said. Edit it to take the choicest bits. You'd make it seem like we think Coolsville sucks. Sorry, I had to make that Scooby-Doo reference. That'd be dishonest. It's not the way we work at Channel 12.
I do like that Forrest said choicest bits.
Yeah.
So Stan ups it to $300, and he's like, "We'll just hang out for a bit."
$300.
And Forrest is like, "You're an idiot. Everyone here is about to be incredibly rich." Because apparently they're all going to be getting a slice of property. Everyone, that works for Taylor. Stan's like, that has nothing to do with the fact that you all have worked for a supervillain. and he tells the crowd that they're just going to be parked at the beach and that their faces can be blurred out. Forrest says that they'll need guards so that nobody, goes and gives the crew anything. And someone in the crowd speaks up and says, Skinner brought us just as much trouble as she stopped.
Yeah, it's Scott from We've
This
Got
is
Worm. He's yelling at her. How
this
can...
is Scott from We've Got Worm, and and they're and he says they're rebuilding. Well, okay, so somebody else is like, oh, we're rebuilding because of her, Scott. But Scott claims that Skinner was the one who she was actually one of the Slaughterhouse 9 recruits, and that's why Mannequin came in the first place.
Mhm. I mean, I can see where the logic is from.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, from the public perspective, the candidates were like, who? You know what I mean? Like who?
Yeah.
There's Hookwolf, might be publicly known because he left with them, maybe. But I think all the rest of them, they'd be like, who?
Who the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, exactly. So Forrest reminds everyone that he was the one who grabbed Mannequin and smashed his head apart into pieces. And Scott's like, yeah, I totally would have done that too if I didn't have other things to worry about. But that wouldn't have had to happen if Skinner weren't here. And Forrest is like, well, you're wrong. She wasn't being recruited. And Scott like flips out and he's like, you're calling me a liar? You're just blind to your own biases. And so he's like walking up to Forrest and yelling, and Charlotte starts having like a PTSD attack and she just totally leaves. So she flees from the crowd. She's panicking and thinking, like imagining their territory developing into the way that the merchants were. And she realizes that she's too upset right now to go back to the kids. So she's like, maybe I just need to keep walking around. But then a disgusting pervert bursts out of nowhere and tries to grab her. It's
Uh-oh.
crazy.
It
Uh-oh.
turns out it's just
But
a regular Danny not trying to grab her.
it turns out it's just a regular man named Danny. And she looks at him and she's like, oh, this is just a nerdy guy who has no social skills. And so she asks if he's a reporter. And he says that he was asking around for someone who knew Taylor.
Am I that
and
much of a nerd? Do I look like a reporter?
Do I look, dude? The way he's like, what? Do I look like a reporter?
I've
Like,
found it less
he's like
indignant than
offended.
that. My brain, like, the line read was just like pure confusion of like, do I look like a reporter?
Like, why would I be a reporter? Yeah. So Charlotte admits that she's the one that he's looking for, and the man says he's Taylor's father. So Charlotte, tries to relax, and Danny asks her if she's okay, and I pulled a quote here.
She shook her head. Yes.
Classic. Real convincing, Charlotte. So she asks if he drinks tea, and she takes a picture of him to send to Tattletale. And Danny's like obviously shook, but she does this. But Charlotte says she worked for Taylor, so she's just following protocol. And she says that he can head to the base with her, and she asks Danny why he isn't with Taylor. She only asks this twice, but every time comes off as like very accusatory, like she is not happy with Danny.
Yeah. Like, some of the way that she talks to him, it's really funny because, like, she is, like, probably 16, possibly 15, and she's, like, ordering Danny around. So.
It's pretty funny. So he says that things turned really ugly and that the whole situation just isn't adding up. And that all this time he's been telling himself that this is just his same old Taylor, but that he's not so sure anymore.
Yeah.
So
Oh, we missed a
Very
thing
sad.
from Greg a while ago. It has to have been to the "That'd be dishonest. It's not the
Oh,
way we work at Channel 12." And then Greg said, "Unlike those terrible Channel 11ers." Ugh. So
for real. They're always spinning the story.
always changing what I say to make it seem like I think Coolsville sucks.
So Charlotte gets the confirmation text from Tattletale that Danny is approved. And Danny asks if all this security is really necessary. And Charlotte says even if Taylor left, they still have enemies, just period, but also people might be trying to hurt Taylor through other people. And Danny hadn't been considering that he might be at risk now. Uh-oh. So Danny asks why Charlotte hasn't walked away from this whole situation, and Charlotte says that she might be even more wrapped up in it than Danny himself.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of just a savage to Danny.
Yeah, and she gets his ass later when they're talking to Rachel and stuff.
Yeah. So Charlotte leads Danny into their secret storm drain and enter into Skitter's lair. And Danny's like pretty shocked to find it's like a nice house and it's full of orphan children for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like from his perspective that is very shocking. Like you just heard all okay, you hear that your daughter not only is secretly has superpowers, but she's been a supervillain and she's been taking over the entire city. And then she murders somebody in front of you and possibly one other person also sort of in front of you. And then you're like trying to investigate the situation and you go to her into her supervillain lair and it's full of children.
Yeah.
Like I'd be like, oh, does she do child labor? Like, that would probably be my first assumption.
Yeah, I guess that might be. Yeah, it could look bad. I I can see why he
I
doesn't
wouldn't.
get the child labor vibes because the
No,
situation
but
is
he
very
is like a
cash.
very alarmed. He's like,
Yeah,
what the is this what she's been doing the whole time?
yeah.
And Charlotte's like, well, sort of. Like I do most of the taking care of, but Taylor was looking after everyone. And Danny says she's just trying to justify what she did, and Charlotte's like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So, the one of the kids, Ethan, wanders over, wanting to go on an errand, and Charlotte sends him to tell Forrest that Danny is here. And Danny asks if it's okay to send this kid out alone at night. And Charlotte's like, "Oh, it's really safe, and we have like a great community or whatever." Um, and she tells Danny that Ethan is actually just wanting to go out and secretly cry. So he'll like come and ask for errands all the time so he can go do that. And that all the kids have their individual needs that they have to accommodate. And then Charlotte's like, you should really be with Taylor right now. I have a quote here.
I was there, Danny said. I told myself I'd stand by her, and then, all at once, it wasn't her. I've seen her in a crisis after her mom died. She was one of the people who withdrew. When she was bullied at school, she withdrew. But there, at the PRT headquarters, that wasn't her. It was, Charlotte said. Maybe you lost sight of who she was becoming somewhere down the line. I don't think anyone would fault you with the secret she was keeping. No, Danny said. I don't think it was her. Not really. Just for a minute, she became a monster.
Interesting. And Charlotte's like, we all have a monster inside, just like the children do. And Danny says, whatever monster it was big. So Forrest comes inside and he shakes Danny's hand. Then he goes to get the boys into the bath. And Charlotte sits Kathy down and starts brushing her hair while Danny's talking. And he asks if Taylor ever talked about him. And he's like so sad when she says no. So awful. But Charlotte says, like, when it came down to it, she wasn't talking about you, but she was like specifically making time to spend with you, even though it made her whole life more difficult. And Danny says that Taylor, in the end, chose her friends over him, and now she'd chosen to go all out instead of coming home to him. And that
Mm-hmm.
made me really sad. But so he says he came here to make a decision, but he's just even more conflicted now. Taylor needs a parent or guardian to testify for her character in order to join the wards. And if he chooses not to do this, then Taylor will just be nice and safe in prison. So that's kind of what he's dealing with right now.
I know you hadn't pulled the quote
Um,
on this one, but I'm just going to quote the couple lines. It's the can testify about her character, and then it's do it. I'm wondering if I should. Charlotte gave him a hard look. Yeah. It's just like, yeah.
yeah, she is like does not approve of Dan, but it's like no, I get it. He's having a hard time right now. He's been like wandering around outside after watching his daughter like kill someone. um, so Charlotte goes, oh, never mind. She Charlotte says that if he decides to like let Taylor be in prison, Taylor will hate him. And she's like, tells Jesse that she's going to brush her hair next, and instead Danny offers to help, and Jesse goes and sits next to him, and then she's like, "You're better at this than Charlotte," and the kids all head to their room. So Charlotte goes to pour Danny his coffee, and they find Sierra in the doorway. She's like dressed all professionally, still has her dreads though. And closely following her is
Well,
the
she's a girl
entire
boss. She needs to
Undersiders.
keep culturally appropriating.
Yeah. And with her is all of the Undersiders extended edition, all the extra with all the extras.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a quote here.
Danny stood, eyes widening as he recognized the people entering the room. A long time no see, Danny, Tattletale said. Lisa, he answered. There was no warmth in his tone.
Mm. So bitch has a bunch of puppies with her, and she loans Charlotte one to help her cope with losing Taylor. And I had to pull this because it's so funny.
You? Bitch asked Danny. No, thank you. You don't miss your daughter? Bitch asked, narrowing her eyes a little. I do. I mean, I think I'll see her soon, probably, but then take it. For now.
For now. Like, you don't miss your daughter? She just like starts handing people a puppy every time. Anyone who says they miss Taylor, she just hands them a puppy.
Yeah.
So, Danny accepts the puppy, and Charlotte sends Bitch to bring the rest to visit the kids. And she's followed by Perian and Flechette. So Tattletale starts talking logistics, talking about how they'll split up the territory. Sierra now works under Tattletale, and all the property that they've owned is in her name, and it's going to be split up between the other residents. And Tattletale tells Charlotte and Forrest that they're getting funding to restore the boardwalk, and then anything they need to take care of themselves and the kids. And they talk about like training security and stuff because people are going to, a lot of villains are going to be coming soon because of the portal opening. And Charlotte asks if they're going to make it, and Tattletale says that they have to. um, Danny pipes in, and he tells them that Taylor had said to Alexandria that she trusted them all to handle things if the heroes didn't leave the Undersiders alone. And Tattletale says if they believed in them to that degree, they especially can't fail. Can't let down Taylor.
I was thinking about I wanted to go back to something Forrest had said, the Forrest and Gru back and forth, where Forrest says, that seems like it'll cause more problems than it solves. People are resentful. There's already cracks forming. And then Gru says, discipline will help with that. Time will help with the rest. And I had been thinking earlier in the chapter, like especially on the first read, like what Taylor had worked because of the disaster, but was like starting to fall apart already in a way. And like I think if they hadn't taken action like this to specifically try and counteract that, then it would have been like this whole thing sort of dissolves, like the people kind of go back to just being regular poor people. Like, so it's
Yeah,
would kind of be like
that's what
terrible for
I was kind
everyone.
of expecting. Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. So,
Um but they kind of like
all the just
bolster against that.
go
Anyway,
ahead.
you go on.
Yeah. So they all keep talking about everything, and around midnight, the Understaters get up to head out, and Charlotte gathers the puppies and asks Bitch if the puppy therapy actually helps. And Bitch says yes, but it's not enough. And Charlotte offends Bitch by saying that losing a person is worse than losing a dog, but she somehow Bitch keeps it together. And
I think that she
Charlotte tells her that
really like her perspective has actually changed, and she's realized how like precious her connection to Taylor was.
hmm
So,
Yeah, and I think that she also is offended by what Charlotte says because Charlotte is like saying, "Oh, nothing could replace a human connection or whatever." And internally, Rachel has been like really feeling down on herself for not being able to like get those human connections and not able to feel as strongly about them as she does for her dogs. So she does kind of just like eyeball her and move on.
mhm.
So, um, she Charlotte tells her Bitch that it would be great, if she could bring the puppies back around sometime, and she says maybe, but that she's supposed to be going through the portal to keep the other side safe. So the Undersiders head out. Danny's kind of heading out, and Charlotte asks if he's made a decision yet, which he hasn't. And Charlotte suggests Taylor maybe switch sides for Danny and wishes him luck. So with the Undersiders, Danny and Forrest all gone, Charlotte locks the shutter and she finds a box of Taylor's items that she forgot to show Danny. And she lays in. She took over her room,
Hell
which is really
yeah.
funny because I'm imagining Charlotte like Taylor never. I don't think she ever describes her bedroom, but it definitely like has to be like a scary four-poster bed with like a big piece of weird abstract art above it.
I sleep in your bed now.
She
Maybe
sleeps
maybe
in
she
her bed
oh if
now.
it's four-poster bed, maybe she has a big Scrooge bed. I was just watching
What if
Muppet
it could
Christmas
definitely
Carol.
it could definitely be a Scrooge bed. It also I would I know that Taylor I don't know. If I were Charlotte, I would want to sleep in her bed because I feel like I would be thinking about spiders in it the whole time. I'd be like, what if there's spiders in the bed? What if they
Hmm.
can smell Taylor's scent and they come for me?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I'd be like Charlotte. I'd just steal it.
You
But
just steal
also,
it.
she should have said to Danny before he left, like, think about all the things that Taylor has done for you, and ask yourself if you are going to sign that permission slip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she lays in the bed, but she can't get to sleep. So after a few hours, she gets up and checks on the kids. Aiden is awake and he says he wants a dog. And she asks if he's had any nightmares. And he said 5 nights ago he had a good dream, a big dream, but he can't really remember. So like to Charlotte and to us, this is like sus.
What? Yeah.
Um, so he had like done a drawing of it when he'd woken up, and I pulled a quote here.
She looked at it. It didn't look like much of anything. Two scribbles, circles and dots. These big things. Fish? I don't remember. I think it started as a bad dream and then it became better. And these dots are circles. They only covered part of the page. Planets and stars. I only remember because that's how I usually draw them. What do you mean? You only remember? Forgot, even faster than I usually forget the bad dreams.
So Charlotte thinks back to the day that Skitter rescued her and how she and Tattletale had reacted when there was the trigger event. And she asks Aiden if he has power, and he says no, and he's like somber about it. But he tells her he remembers it was exactly 5 days ago because that was the day that Taylor was outed. And Charlotte wonders how it could all connect. Maybe if it weren't a trigger, it was the potential to trigger? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
We're gonna need
Dun
about
dun
10 more question
dun.
marks for this one.
Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
It's like,
So,
I mean, this is like one of the most like obvious, like I guess like hooks, like plot hooks, like one of the clearest. Just there it is.
something's happening. Yeah,
But
it was very good.
yeah, I feel like because she does bring this to Tattletale's attention, I feel like given that she already knows Tattletale is like manually forgetting, auto forgetting, like
Yeah,
she should have like
I guess
I don't know.
I guess I I wouldn't think that Tattletale could forget the drawing because she forgets the drawing, right?
Yeah, she looks at it and then forgets it in a scene we see
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, I feel like at this point I wouldn't assume that that would be how it happens. Like I guess I would just think that when the actual stuff is happening they forget it, but not that it could be like even when we remind you of it or even when you see a drawing
She
that
was too
represents it,
busy
you will
forgetting
forget.
Imp's power.
We're all too busy forgetting that imp exists to focus on whatever Aiden drew today, okay?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And it sounds like his drawing kind of sucks too. She's like, and just scribbles and circles.
Yeah, but you know how like a child bird is just like a V, but like you know instantly
Yeah,
exactly what it is. Um,
yeah.
it's like sometimes I'll see something and I'll be like, okay, that's what a child thinks space looks like, and so I think
Hmm.
that's what we're seeing is that the child, the kind of pictogram that while inaccurate is very like legible. That's how I had
Yeah.
imagined it.
It's symbolic in some way. It has
Yeah,
a lot of yeah.
but anyway, I had also said as my I put in this like final chapter thoughts thing for some really specific thing that I thought early in the chapter. Then I completely forgot it, and I was like, ah. But I did later write down everyone in Taylor's orbit uses the idea of living up to her expectations as motivation. It happens early in the chapter between Charlotte, Forrest, and the kids. Then it happens again with Tattletale motivating the Undersiders, and I think it's great. We all love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a pretty good like I said, like I didn't remember this chapter very well. Charlotte doesn't have a very strong perspective, which is probably why I didn't remember it. Because it's like usually I'll remember what happens in the chapter, but I won't associate it with the specific person if they don't have like a strong like personal voice or written voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't really a negative thing. Charlotte's voice is going to be kind of similar to Taylor's because they are both like 16-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And Charlotte is also a normie. She is she is definitely there's a lot of like civilians, non-capes that you're like, "Oh, they're totally cape-brained or whatever." That could be a cape. Charlotte could not have been a cape.
Yeah. Yeah.
She would
Um,
have been a real like Marissa or Parian. Like technically she could have been, but you know.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Although I do think of
uh-huh.
Charlotte as pretty smart, so I think that, she would be a little bit better at it than Parian and Sundancer.
Burn. So I mostly agree with
Idiot.
you, and I think that she's really like effective at what she does to an almost like ridiculous degree, because she's also like doing PR for the Undersiders on PR and recruiting on Parahumans
Hmm.
Online while all this is happening. Like she's bringing so much to the table, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of like ridiculous almost, but it's stuff that like capes are generally specifically bad at.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
yeah,
Taylor could not have taken care of these children on her own.
yeah. Well, it's
She would have sent the spiders to tuck them into bed. She'd be like, they'll just weave the silk around you and snuggle you tight.
um but I was thinking about it because it's like, while I was having a hard time coming up with a question for Charlotte, I found her like generally very like competent and
Hmm.
like even though she has like moments where she freaks out or whatever, she's able to like make decisions for the group and stuff.
Hmm.
And that's why, even though she's just some other 16-year-old who doesn't have powers, then like Tattletale lets her remain like a high ranking member of the group.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Um, did we want to talk about arc stuff? I guess we could save arc stuff for next week.
We'll talk about it just very briefly how this chapter relates into the arc, because I think it's much more of a traditional wrap up chapter than like next week's.
Yeah.
This is like a recap, because this is the end of like um well, it's kind of, if I were to put these into books, it would be in the middle of a book, but it's like the end of an act, kind of, I guess. It
Hmm.
just it feels like a big change has finally just happened, and
Yeah, I
we've
feel
been
like this
waiting
could
for
be
so
the
long.
end of part one,
Hmm.
kind of
Gotcha.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, within like the structure of a book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah. And it it's very effective at calibrating how the people are, because we've checked in with them every arc for this like segment of time. We checked in at the end of arc 20 with the villain meeting, even though it's from Accord's perspective. We checked in with them from Parian's perspective in arc 21. And I thought that one, like that chapter, like as far as perspective on the Undersiders, is really excellent. Like even slightly better than this one, but seeing Charlotte's perspective, that's not as focused on the Cape side, but it's focused on like Taylor's version of the Undersiders, like Taylor's like specific gang that wasn't the Capes.
Hmm.
Like this is the most we ever get of them.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Perion's also like compared to Charlotte, like a lot more wrapped up in what's going on with her.
yeah, yeah. Um. Anyway, we can move on to the character section though.
Okay. I tried to put these in orders from least important to most, but let me think if we should. Actually,
I
I
think
feel like we should put Danny for before Charlotte.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that uh this is a minor nitpick, but I was confused by the drawing at first, thinking maybe it was Danny, because uh, I thought that Forrest has both thick hair and a thick beard.
He does, but children don't know how to draw that.
Okay, okay, yeah, he's only got the stick hair of Danny.
He has stick hair. He has stick hair because boy have stick hair.
Yeah, you're right. Boy have stick hair. I think
But
it's
I
funny
I
because it's
definitely like
true that he
remember
kind of
not like understanding how to draw facial hair as a child. Well, I still don't know how to draw facial hair, but I would just be like, they don't need that.
That's so funny. I
But you
was
can
thinking
tell it's
like,
him because of his flannel.
true, true. I just thought Danny was wearing that outfit because Danny also has glasses and would have stick hair and no.
I I always only put Danny in t-shirts and jeans because I don't know what else to put him in because Taylor thinks he's unfashionable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he's always wearing like
Well,
like
I thought it
growth
was
growth
reasonably
Costco
possible.
t-shirts.
Yeah, I thought it was reasonably possible that he just like dressed like me, and Taylor was just like, ugh.
Taylor's like, stop wearing flannels when it's not autumn.
Exactly. Um.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, I can see why he would be Danny. I would have had to draw him much more stickish though.
Yeah.
Slender man.
Yeah. So, Forrest, he is the secondary child ringleader. He
Yeah, and Forrest is cool. Like he just ripped he like went and helped Taylor when nobody else was going and helping Taylor and ripped off
yeah.
I did I wonder if you have that art because
Oh,
that one does feature Forrest as well
yeah.
when
Let me
he's
go to
grabbing
that.
the mannequin chain. But I like him. I feel like he again it's like I feel like the people Forrest, Charlotte, and uh Sierra like now going forward
So this is
are like three.
theoretically Forrest
Yeah.
wearing his lined shirt because he's a background character on Peanuts. Um,
I'm pretty sure he is wearing a striped shirt in the because he's wearing like she does describe what he looks like to let us know that he's a hipster.
yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
But yeah, oh my gosh, there's mannequin. Um, but yeah, what was I gonna say about Forrest, Sierra, and Charlotte, in my opinion, are all very competent people, and they're people who will like engage in a situation even when they are like able somehow to like bypass the bystander effect, you know? And I feel like that's why they're like great picks for yeah, there's I love this picture of Sierra. I hate this picture of Charlotte, but I do like it.
That's
Um,
so funny.
but yeah, I feel like they're like all able to like bypass the bystander effect, and that's perfect for Taylor because Taylor fucking hates bystanders.
Yeah, yeah,
Taylor hates bystanders as pretty much as she hates bullies. It's like kind of I feel like it's kind of like a mini character arc for Charlotte, which I guess we'll talk about later because Charlotte used to be a bystander. But yeah, so I like Forrest. He kind of just like he's not like Sierra where it was like kind of a hostage situation for him to come work here. He like decided to stand up one time and then just never left.
yeah, yeah. No, he's the first like just recruited himself and joined type of guy in terms of like real ones. I know that theoretically those three gang members who turned against them from the ABB were the first ones,
Mhm.
but Forrest
Yeah, but those guys
Forrest is a real
sucked.
one. Yeah.
Forrest is the first real one.
And
Forrest
he
would do
also
it even
like
if he wasn't getting paid.
he was doing it like mid fight, so like while he hadn't officially joined, that was earlier than yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, he is older and there is a problematic age gap between Forrest and Charlotte. But we're just gonna accept
They're not in love with each other, are they?
it only later.
Oh, okay. Okay, okay.
Don't
That's
worry, she's 18.
yeah. It's kind it's kind of worse that that he meets her when she's like 15, 16 and then she like ages up.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, but look, things are complicated when you become adoptive parents to 8 children. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I think there's 6 children right now.
Um,
I think there's four boys and 2 girls. Right? No, there's
because there's Mai as well, so I think there's like 7 at least.
yeah, there's like 7 or 8. Yeah. It's a lot of things get complicated, okay? Forest, we'll cross that bridge when we get there with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have to say about him. Do you want to talk about the kids?
Yes. Do we care about their names? Do we care about naming these
Um,
fools?
no, I only named them because I didn't want to leave all of them unnamed and then name Aiden. But they generally don't matter except for Aiden.
They will bring
But
up some of these names later, like just be like, oh, like Kathy bounced at some point or whatever, in the later chapters. So we get like uh end of 70s movies like follow-ups where it just gives us a couple lines about what happened to them. Man,
Mhm.
I wish
Oh
they
yeah.
did that in movies still, frankly. Like they just tell, like
I
especially in
don't.
comedies. I think that that's so
Oh,
it's
in
so good
comedies,
in
I think it's
comedies.
okay. I can only accept it in comedies.
He grew up to be a US
I hate
senator.
Where
It's
Are They
so
Now?
fucking funny. Oh my god.
When I read, I don't know if Jane Austen does this in all her other books, but I can only assume. But you like finish Pride and Prejudice, and then there's a Where Are They Now? And it's like it's basically like just telling you that all of that bad stuff happened to all the evil characters, but because this was written in like not current times, some of these characters did nothing wrong and they just thought they did something wrong, and so it'll be like and Lizzie's younger sister spent the rest of her life in a sad, horrible, miserable marriage where she was definitely being abused, and we're happy about that. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on here? I always skip the Where Are They Now?
I get that for that kind of scenario, but I'm thinking of like I don't remember what this is from, but like one of them is just like points out a character in the background and it's like died in a corn dog eating contest.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, yeah, maybe we should have done that with the kids. I have all the kids' names here. It's Kathy, Mai or May, Jesse, Aiden, Ephraim, Ethan, and Mason.
So
So
that's
there were a
7.
lot more children originally, but these are the ones that are left. So these are because like the people whose like parents were just like in critical condition or like just trying to work or get by or whatever, it seems like the parents have taken them back, and these are
Well,
the
there's
ones that are
also
just
a bunch
orphaned.
of ones that were from the O'Daly family where like
Hmm.
some huge chunk of their family got killed off, but then like the remaining ones took back because that's like a whole point
Right.
of contention
Yeah, they're like they should take care
with
of their own
Sierra.
kids, and they're like, oh well, they're trying their best.
Yeah,
Um,
Charlotte's in the trying their best camp, I think. But
yeah, but Aiden's the only important one because he had a bad dream that was that was about it wasn't a trigger event, but it was like a pre prerequisite to the trigger event. Seemingly that was when he gets the bud from
yeah, that's when he
Taylor?
gets like the offshoot power.
Yeah, okay. For whatever reason, I had thought that it was before now because of like the like sleepwalking and the nightmares and stuff, but I
Hmm.
guess he
Well, I think that he
so she
needed to
like
like spend enough time around her to like
mhm,
have her. He
her,
he
like
needed to
acclimate her issues.
yeah, he needed to actually like have enough of a like subconscious understanding of her that it like
Mhm.
affected him. That's why the powers can move like laterally and down, but they can't move up a
But I can't move
chain.
up.
Yeah, they can't
Hmm.
move to a parent or whatever. Um
Hmm.
but yeah. So like she was around him just enough for in like this really critical time to leave this like indelible mark on his personality. Um
Hmm.
and I think that that's just when it like took. That's when it was enough or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had like a thought that it was like it had been like building up to this point, and then yeah, it like finally takes, and then I guess now it just waits, and we'll see if Aiden ever has a trigger event.
Yeah, cuz this didn't like determine his powers. It just like put him in the same mindset and like a similar power vein uh
Hmm.
as uh as Taylor. But also,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
the craziest thing to me, and this picture reminded me of it, and the fact that we're talking about this, Imp and Gru's powers are not related to each other. They just have
yeah,
unrelated powers.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like I could be convinced that they came like from the same branch, but I don't think so.
Unless
Because it
Gru's
could be
power.
like,
Well, okay, so the way that we see it in a flashback is that the power was attached to Gru and Imp's dad, and then
uh-huh.
moved over to Imp, like to Aisha as a better host post
Hmm.
Leviathan. So, like, literally, when they were attacked by people, that's when it swapped over to her. Um,
Hmm.
and then, like, I think their dad just got out of the situation by forgetting. Like, Aisha is, gone from the situation because of the new power. And
Hmm.
the dad, without having to defend someone else, was just easily able to, like, punch his way out of
Like
the
leave.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and
Mm.
then forgot that he forgot. Uh,
Yeah.
and then like so his power went to her, but like that would mean if the powers were related, Gru's power would be the offshoot power. And that's crazy to
Hmm.
me.
Yeah. Hmm. I feel like, yeah, I guess I feel like his could have been an offshoot. I don't know. Well, what else to say about the kids? I like that. I like that the kids are here. They're doing like a couple of things in this chapter. Like they're giving us, the kid perspective on what's going on in the Taylor situation. They are like distraught about Taylor leaving or whatever,
I think
but they're in
they
the same.
they do a thing that is like in the Parahumans Online, Wildbow is really explicit about it, where he had a character just outright say like she did a good thing, so she's good. Then she did a bad thing, so she's bad, and like goes back and
Yeah.
forth and just like lays it out plain
Yeah,
how
they're
like
having
simple the
that
argument.
conversation.
Yeah, they're having the same exact conversation on a level of like pizza versus scary.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not like that's exactly how I saw it. They were like, she bought us pizza, so she's good. And then it also is demonstrated with like their trust in Taylor and just like intrinsically with Danny. I think like with Jesse just like going over to him to get her hair brushed or whatever and like being comfortable with him or whatever. I feel like they just want to like be like just a reminder how cool Danny is. Random children trust him, you know. Even though he's like so awkward.
Yeah, I got the impression that it was the spillover from like they like Taylor so much that
Yeah,
they're
and they like Taylor, and so they trust Taylor's dad.
yeah. So
So yeah, that's kind of I don't know. I think that's all I have about them. Do you want to talk about the Undersiders?
yeah. Perry and Foyle have folded themselves into the group. Although I think they still call her Flechette in this chapter. They just don't address that she renamed herself yet. Um, uh, and Charlotte's surprised to see her. Obviously, it's not publicly known, not even on like a PHO level, that
Hmm.
she's switched sides, and uh I don't know. It's good that they're here in force, and like they're here to bolster what Charlotte and Forrest are doing and to like back them up in a way that is like meaningful, because they're like I think that not just you and me, but like a lot of people in story were like writings on the wall. This place is gonna fall apart if it's not like held together on purpose. Um,
Hmm.
so because it's like as much as Taylor built a thing, she was like um she was so pivotal there in the like moment to moment of things.
Yeah, yeah. It had been built with the idea that she would still be a part of it and able to kind of like move things along as they needed to be moved along. I don't think it definitely wasn't ever built. She never built out her like territory or society to be able to function without her.
And the one good thing is that like the fact that she was making concessions for Danny meant that she had to be more hands off and like get more things to be run by other people or like humming along on their own. So like the fact
Mm-hmm.
that she was trying to like live with Danny and stuff the last 3 weeks is probably probably led like helped lead to the success post her leaving, which is
Mm-hmm.
like probably sad from her perspective that like the fact that she was there less was what made them able to, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think she ever thinks about it in those terms, but I think it would make her sad anyway. Yeah. Uh, Undersiders. Yeah, we get the back and forth where Danny is like offended that Rachel would be more um like that this would hurt her more than it hurts him.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's one of the places where let's see, most just trying to find the way it's phrased. Boop, boop, boop. Oh man. Well, if I find it, I'll read it out. Basically, like, Charlotte nods along with Tattletale, and she's just like, "Yup, it's right. It's not Danny that is the most hurt right now. It's Rachel."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They're all like yeah, they're like somber, but they're kind of just like in like recovery and business mode. Gru seems mostly fine. Charlotte does not reference him billowing or anything like that. Um like usually people will be like, "Oh, there was a ton of darkness coming out of Gru. He was like really intimidating or whatever." But it
but he's
seems like
just
he's
like,
just
"I
kind of
want the
hanging out.
chips," and then they're like, "We
Yeah,
throw
he's
the
like, "I want
chips."
chips." And then they throw the chips at him, and they're and Imp and Regent are like eating orphan children snacks.
You know,
And Charlotte's like, I'll have to figure something out to replace those.
it occurred to me that like to keep his face hidden, he would need to like let out darkness and open the helmet and shove chips in
That's
really
what I was
fast.
thinking. I was like, how are you gonna eat the fucking chips, Guru? But yeah, I feel like he could just billow out some darkness and then open his mask.
I'm just like imagining
I
how
feel
funny it would be if you were someone who could see through his darkness and you're just watching Brian like guiltily look around the room while speed eating chips and like puts down the helmet thing again.
yeah, he covers his hands too, so you can't tell what he's doing. And the darkness covers the sound of the crunch. He could do it like in the movie theaters. I would definitely be doing that so I can eat my popcorn out as loud as I want.
Yeah, you just sit in the back so it's harder to tell what's
Do,
happening.
do you think that do you think that Kru's power inhibits other people's taste? So like if they try to
Mm,
eat the chips in his darkness, they're like kind of disappointed.
I don't think so because the dogs can smell him through, and other capes sometimes can smell him through the darkness. So I don't think that it
Hmm.
would inhibit taste because it doesn't inhibit smell. But it's supposed to have a weird, like heavier
I
than
had
air
thought,
texture.
yeah, I had kind of thought that it inhibited smell, but it didn't inhibit it enough for people or dog, like people with powers or dogs, because like they already just
Oh,
have a lot better senses of smell.
maybe.
That
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just kind of what I had always assumed. But who knows? I feel like this would all be fixed if the one line in um oh my gosh, which dog has their interlude? Bo
Brutus.
Brutus's chapter. In Brutus's chapter, if he didn't say that Gru didn't smell it, that Gru smelled like nothing.
I think the Gru smells like nothing, but they can sniff out his costume anyway because he wears leather. I literally
But
think that.
Taylor says that he smells like nice, clean laundry detergent and cologne.
Mmm.
But
Yeah.
I think at the time we had kind of decided that if he has used his power recently, then he will not smell. He
Gotcha. It's like Ashley's eyes come back after a while.
Yeah.
Gru's
Yeah.
smelliness comes back after a while. I was just
Yeah.
thinking during
He
this
actually
conversation
doesn't.
that Aisha could have BO all the time and just make you forget.
Yeah, I was gonna say that so can Gru. He can just be like, he can like work out and then he can like use his, have his darkness come out of his armpits a little bit and be got fine.
Yeah, yeah. Highly skilled and niche power uses.
I mean, I would be doing it. Um, yeah, so the Undersiders, it's mostly just I feel like this is kind of like a more fan servicey look at them, where it's
Yeah, like
like
Tattletale's just
Rachel
kind of a
being
brat, and she
cute,
theoretically should have a
Tattletale's a
headache, but she
brat.
doesn't have a headache. And I'm like, I love
Yeah,
it. Like
yeah,
we just get a nice scene with them. And it is kind of fan servicey. She should be out of
yeah,
commission still, but she's like brattle-tailing along.
yeah. She's being Brattletail uh and the lesbians are together and
We're just here holding
the
hands.
kids.
Nothing weird is happening.
Yeah, they're holding hands, and the kids are like eating snacks all together, and Rachel has a million puppies with her and is handing them to people. Like, it definitely comes off like that. I don't mind it in this chapter specifically. I don't mind I didn't think it was overdone or anything.
Yeah.
I thought it was cute. So I don't have a lot to say about them this chapter because I feel like that was kind of most of the intention was to be cute in front of Danny so that Danny feels bad sending Taylor to prison.
I think it's like they didn't maybe Tattletale plan for it to be this way. I don't think any of the rest of them planned for it to be this way, and
Oh
they
yeah,
basically left the perfect impression on Danny.
yeah, yeah. They were being the best versions of themselves for sure.
Like even Alec
Except
and
for
Aisha
Tattletale.
were like being like
Reasonable.
they were goofing around with the snacks, but they weren't going wild.
Yeah. But I also think like showing them goofing around is like good for Danny because it's like a just like a reminder that these were other teenagers. And so
Yeah, and that
all
Gru is
that
still
stuff that
Brian, like,
Guy
and he
has
likes
said
Brian,
where yeah,
So
that's true. He does like Brian.
yeah, he's like, damn it.
Oh, Danny. What do we have to say about Danny?
Um, this is, I think, one of my favorite chapters with Danny because of the fact that he is confronting this stuff and seeing it from this perspective. And even just the fact that he's like, I don't know what's happening. Like, the stuff on the news doesn't line up, but everyone's, like, going along with her story. Like, I literally can't even follow the politicking when I'm in the room. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't understand any of it. Um,
Yeah.
because it's all happening on such like a fast high level where like you get the fact that like Stan was not in the loop on what was happening in that second, but like by the time that he's talking to Taylor on the phone later, he already knows that there was like a ruse going on. Like he didn't get told that by Taylor.
Yeah.
So like they're on completely different levels. And so seeing him kind of muddling through this situation and finally like grappling with like maybe it's not as easy as what I was you know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe things are a lot more complicated. And yeah, he's like I feel like he's like kind of out of it. Like he's definitely maybe he's just always like this, but he definitely is just like telling random children his like really big emotions. And and like having a hard definitely just like having a hard time coping with everything. Um he is like I don't know, he's like the harshest that we've seen him towards Taylor this chapter. Like the way that he's talking about her. He says that he's like when Charlotte gives him pushback, he doubles down and he's like, "No, there was something scary going on. Like the way that she turned was something unrecognizable and monstrous."
But if you think I was thinking when you were reading through that part, I didn't think of it till we were midstream, but it felt to me like Danny was like if you were to just have somebody else witness Danny like go off on someone, like let's see let's say that Charlotte, having only met Danny in sad mode, sees Danny like go off on the mayor or whatever.
Hmm.
Like she would have her own like PTSD freak out just seeing him like in that mode, I think. But then like
Yeah.
to her, he would seem like he can't see his own like that portion of it. But it really jumped out at me that it was like you're just describing like probably the perspective of anyone else seeing you flip out.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially because he was comparing it to like, oh, I've seen her at her worst or whatever when her mom died, but that's like a completely different scenario
Yeah.
than somebody killing
Yeah.
her. Like if her mom had been murdered, I think that he and Taylor would have had very angry reactions. And so if like this if Taylor's anger hasn't been seen by him before, which seemingly it wouldn't have been because I don't think she started like having like big anger until after her mom died, and she was not at that point they were not like being straightforward with each other emotionally, and she was like not connecting with her dad anymore. So like I wouldn't doubt that he has never seen this side of Taylor or whatever, and that it was like alarming for him or whatever. But I do also think that it was like I agree with Charlotte. It's like no, she was just mad.
Yeah. Because it's like and I'm thinking about it more, and it's like probably the kinds of reactions that Danny has gotten in his life from like him flipping out on other people's behalf as like the dock workers union leader or
Hmm.
whatever is like probably his dock worker friends are like Danny's got that dog in him, like stuff like that,
Yeah.
where they're like really impressed and they like that he fights for them, and that is
Hmm.
probably like he's discounting the fact that Taylor's friends and Taylor's employees or whatever like see her the same way that the dock workers see him as like
Hmm.
fighting for them and like being the only person who's really on their side kind of thing. So like
Hmm.
he doesn't see it, but his life and her life are super similar.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. It's even like I feel like it's even essentially called out in the story when Taylor's like walking around like from construction sites and her dad's just at a construction site like working like doing the exact
Yeah,
same thing she's doing.
he's like leading a crew in the same way she would lead a crew.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, oh Danny, but yeah, he's really struggling. And he's thinking about basically not going along with Taylor's plan because it seems like he's not even sure whether it's like I want to keep her out of harm's way or if it's I want to keep other people out of harm's way or if it's both.
I think it's more directly like he wants to keep her out of harm's way, but
Hmm.
also he doesn't trust her anymore because of the interrogation scene.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of the mix that I read from it.
That makes sense. I think that's right.
Yeah. Um. We get Danny saying that stuff doesn't add up and it's different than he thought, but it never digs into that. He never talks to Tattletale about it or anything in the scene. So, like, Charlotte's confused by it, and, like, we get what he means as the audience, but we unfortunately don't get to dig deeper into, like, him reconciling that, which I think is it's fine that it happens kind of off screen, but I would have liked, since he was here, to know kind of how he works through that at all. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't like feel like he trusted Tattletale enough to like bring it up because the only thing he seemingly brings up is that like hey, I just wanted you guys to know that it seems like Taylor really believed in you or whatever, which just isn't isn't saying too much. Isn't like showing his hand or anything. But maybe, I don't know, maybe he's just like really distrustful of Tattletale and thinks she's a liar. Which she kind of is.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you got any more Danny thoughts?
No, we can talk about Charlotte.
Charlotte is pretty cool. She might not have a strong character voice, but she's, to me, a really memorable character. And I guess her like basic, straightforward viewpoint really, if anything, I think it says like how kind of right to the point she can get with a lot of these things, and like
Yeah, she's like pretty pragmatic. Like she's just kind of not concerned with the is Taylor good or Taylor evil. She's more like, what are we gonna do right this next moment?
yeah.
How are we gonna survive and how are we gonna make things work?
But she does take the time to sort of shape the kids' idea of Taylor to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Especially because they're going to continue living under the like guardianship of a bunch of villains and like a gang. So
Yep.
yeah. um, but she's just like very passively PR focused in a way that like I said earlier, it's something she's just very good at.
Mm-hmm.
And so like her social skills in most situations are just like gonna be better than the Undersiders.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I feel like it's like she used to be bystander coded. But I feel like it's she specifically when Taylor rescues her, she remembers Taylor, and when Taylor's like, "What the hell? Like you never helped me." Like she has some sort of reason. I wish that Taylor hadn't cut her off because Charlotte was like, "No, you don't understand," and then was going to like tell us what the trio of popular girls was like from like their perspective, like a mid-tier person's perspective. And we never got to hear it.
Yeah.
Um,
Damn you,
but
Taylor.
come on, I like every single time I read that part, I'm like, come on, Charlotte, tell us, tell us what it was like, and then Taylor's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like she was rescued by she didn't rescue Taylor in her situation, but she was rescued by Taylor in Charlotte's own situation, and then like going forward, she very much is somebody who like she just kind of trucks on. Like she obviously like has a problem with like being aggressive men, and feeling like nervous around them and nervous around men in general and stuff. Um, and this is like clearly like tied to the situation with the merchants. And I feel like it also makes it like the reason that she can like understand the kids' needs so well is because of that situation and the issues that she's had because of it. So I don't know, it's just like she ended up just being the perfect person to be in the situation with the kids and taking care of them all. Because she kind of knows exactly what they need and how to support them. And like I said, she's like just very pragmatic and like, let's just move on and not worry about the fact that we're being bankrolled by supervillains. It really doesn't matter. We just need to take care of these kids.
Yeah. Oh, Charlotte, I like pulled this quote not because I think it's like the most poignant Charlotte quote, but because like if you take it in conjunction with the title of the final arc, we're little more than specks with the sheer scale of the stuff she's focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And 30 is spec. So
Nice.
yeah.
The specs are coming.
Yeah. I feel like there's got to be more to say about Charlotte.
I mean, she's kind of a savage, like I said. Like she just is like very like disappointed in Danny this whole chapter and like letting it be known to him.
She's like, look, I'm an adult and you're a little kid. So you
I'm an adult and you're a loser coward, and why aren't you with your daughter? Why aren't you with your daughter? Why aren't you with your daughter?
Yeah.
She's like so unhappy with him. And when he's like questioning like the security and stuff, she's like, "Don't you know anything?"
That weirdly reminded me of I think it was like Trin Lavelle or someone who was watching Juno, and she was like talking about the Jason Bateman character, and she kept going, "Where is your wife, sir? Where is your wife?"
Yeah, that's what Charlotte was saying to Danny, and Danny's bursting into tears.
In this case, it'd be, "Where's your daughter, sir?"
Where's your daughter? Yeah, she's just so disappointed in him. I forgot to mention this in the final chapter thoughts, but it is mostly Charlotte that does it. But there's like this thing in this chapter where somebody will just say she da 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 da, da, and everybody in the room knows they're talking about Skitter because she's like such a prolific icon in their life that like obviously that's who they're talking about.
Yeah.
And with the kids as well, because Charlotte's sitting at the computer. She opens up her computer and then she says she's famous, and then Aiden says because she was on TV, and so they just all are kind of like in the same mindset of like, if anyone is referred to vaguely, we're obviously talking about Taylor because she's so important in our lives and we talk about her so much.
Yeah. Man. They don't even need to say her name like hardly ever because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even like totally catch on to that.
Yeah, I think it happens later with the Undersiders too, where they'll be like, "We need to make her happy. We can't fail her," and all this stuff. And it's like she's just she has surpassed needing to be referred to.
Yeah. She's she is what you call it? I'm failing to think of the word, but I don't know. She's like the core of their lives or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Want to talk about powers, knowledge, and world building?
Yeah, you pulled out this thing about Skitter's territory. Taylor had turned. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
No. You say. I was just gonna read the quote, but say what you were gonna say about it.
I was just gonna say that I pulled this because it was just. I feel like it just kind of really represents this chapter really represents how like the territory as a whole feels about her. There was one person giving a little bit of pushback. Like when Scott from We've Got Worm came up and said like actually Taylor caused as many problems as she solved. He didn't say like Taylor caused way more problems and I wish I were never here and I fucking hate her or anything like that. He basically is like, well, she caused problems too.
You know what Forrest said? Forrest said, "You're being unfair to Taylor."
And Forrest said, "Shut the fuck up, Scott from We've Got Worm." But yeah, and I feel like this quote that I pulled is like a good representation of how all her territory feels about her. You can read it now.
I'm gonna read both of these things. Taylor had turned herself in early in the day, and word had spread. They'd hooked up a television, the biggest they could get their hands on, and set it up beneath a waterproof tent for good measure. For the better part of the day, they'd watched. People had stopped by, glancing at the latest news. Any update, however, large or small, was met by shouted alerts, by haulers, and speculation.
Yeah, we're real interested in what Taylor's doing. And when Stan Vickery shows up, everybody's like yelling at him and like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Like, it's not. There's not really anybody in the situation like who's on board with sharing their perspective on Taylor. And then when he goes off to the beach, I was just thinking like if I was like watching any other if I was reading any other book or watching any other show, like somebody would have like turned and like followed them going to the beach to like tell them whatever they thought, but nobody does that. It's like even I don't know, I feel like even Scott from We've Got Worm hopefully won't turn against her. We'll see.
I think Forrest says they set up guards so that.
Yeah, I think they do, but I it seems like just an extra precaution.
Yeah. As far as powers, knowledge, and world building, I did think it was good to get these like civilian perspectives. I know they're not fully civilians, but like I guess the orphans are. Actually, now that I think about it, the orphans aren't fully civilian. They're like they're the Baker Street orphans, where they're just awaiting to become new Sherlocks in the making. I always bring up the Baker Street orphans because I find it so incredibly funny that he had an army of orphan labor to like spy on people. Anyway. So yeah, these are just future Undersiders in the making.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely Aiden. Are you kidding?
Yeah. He sees a bunch of squiggles and fish and circles. It could be anything.
And then he starts thinking about shooting people.
Oh my god. Well, I was thinking to myself, it only occurred to me during this that the way Aiden starts acting during Ward is like the way that, because, we have a friend writing a fic that's like turning around Harry Potter to where like Harry is trying to like help people be better people, and like he gets basically the equivalent of like therapy, and he's like, wow, I was really like perpetuating a bunch of problems and like so like Aiden kind of does that where he's like, I've got to get people to help each other and like to stop having like grudges for years. I've just got to get everybody working together. And it was just funny to me because I was like, oh, Aiden is just the thing that you want to do with that fic. Like,
yep.
Yeah. And I mean, there's even like elements of like the child of a conflict trying to help their like guardian move on from the like devastating results of the previous conflict kind of thing. There's just a lot of story similarities. I wish that we could get this friend to read Worm and Ward. Truly in my heart.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been thinking lately, I think I have recommended Worm to probably a dozen people, and Kaysen has recommended Worm to probably a dozen people, and we have not gotten anybody to read Worm.
Damn. I got kind of a bunch.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel it might just be like our types of friends versus your types of friends or something.
Well, I mean, Millie's like a cattle rancher.
Yeah.
She's not like a... I don't know. She's not into sci-fi normally.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's rough out there.
But I mean, I guess my point is that it can speak to so many different types of audiences. Like, people who really wouldn't normally be into this type of story. Like, I don't think Millie's seen a superhero movie. Like, maybe ever. Maybe she's seen Spider-Man, but... Yeah. Anyway, Oh Worm, I wish we could get more people to read it.
I know.
But it is a very hard pitch. You just gotta forget talking about it being long. You don't mention that. You're like, oh, the first part is pretty quick. It's like an hour and 45 minutes. And then once they start realizing that each subsequent part is longer, they're already trapped.
It's already too late. You're like, yeah, the first arc is only 30 minutes long and it's 30 arcs. And they're like, okay, 15 hours. That seems reasonable.
You just wholesale lie about how long the first arc is.
That's a normal length for a book. I think God, it's not isn't it 30 minutes? I think it's 30 minutes when you listen to it on 2 times speed like I do.
Oh, on 2 times speed. I was gonna say
Maybe.
I think it's an hour and 45 minutes at one time speed with the reading that Rain did, which is his like
Hmm.
re-record for the main audiobook.
I see, I see. Yeah. Well, listen, if they're better, if they just speed it up to like 5 times speed, it won't be that much longer than a normal book.
It's so weird when I'm reading Arc 1 because it's like I'm cringing at how much worse it is than the rest of the book, but I'm also simultaneously like, this is still pretty good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like one of those weird things. Like, I don't even want to tell people it starts off rocky most of the time. I usually just say, like, it gets better and better as it goes, rather than
Hmm.
saying it starts rocky, because that's like, it doesn't start that rocky.
It doesn't start that rocky, and it's not rocky for very long.
Yeah, I think it's just
It's
like
like,
weird when she's alone. And she's not alone anymore midway through arc 2.
hmm yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. All right. I think we can move on to the audience participation question. Um, I don't think we actually got any answers because I posted it as we were starting the thing. But
hmm
we ourselves can talk about it as though we're listeners. Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay, so are you more in line with Charlotte or Danny's perspective on the orphan issue? And I've got to say, I know that it's kind of how the book seemingly wants you to feel about it, and it's almost the easy answer. But I'm more in line with Charlotte's view. Like the
Whoa.
system of the city has proven itself that it can't take care of these kids, and that it just doesn't have the capacity to like do what is needed, and she's actually like feeding them and socializing them with other kids and
hmm
sending them to school.
Yes, that yeah, like the fact that they're going to school full time and she is also
They
going
would
to
be
school
shipped
full
off to
time.
another city, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to live in
Yeah.
like some random orphanage, which would probably be really low quality anyway.
Yeah,
So
I think that in the situation that they're in, like this is fine. I feel like if I were more worried about like yeah, like the kids like getting an education and like having like proper resources and that kind of stuff, then I don't know. If I was in Charlotte's situation, I keep doing my own damn thing.
yeah, yeah.
Like like I guess I thought that at
And
some
they're being
I would think
bankrolled
that at
to a
some
huge
point, yeah,
degree.
they're being bankrolled. Like it would be like up in the air from day to day, like is this still the best decision for them? And every day the answer would be yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Um and then like I can imagine that some people would be on Danny's side of things because I know a lot of people who kind of are just like, but this is how things are supposed to work. And like, that's enough of a reasoning for them. I would hope a book like
mhm.
this could break them out of that kind of mindset. But no, I think a lot of people just wouldn't be swayed by the message.
Yeah. It's just like maybe in a different situation, but it's like the city is not doing well at all. The whole situation is not safe. This is like they've kind of proven time and time again that the kids are like extremely safe at this point.
Mm-hmm. And like, the other thing is just like Danny is the same one who in the interrogation room earlier in this arc, he was like Taylor was saying like before when it was Empire 88 and the ABB, like it was worse. And then Danny starts a sentence, but at least with them, and then he thinks about it for a second and he's like, nope,
He's like,
not
no,
coming up with
never
any
mind.
answers. At least with them, what, Danny?
At least with them, I didn't feel like I was being affected by it directly, is what.
God.
Yeah. Which is true. I feel like it definitely does say something about like here was like this negative situation where specifically non-white people were being hurt in many ways, not just by Empire 88, but also all of the people that were forced to participate in the ABB or to pay like tithe to them or whatever. And yeah, that's the main difference.
Yeah.
is that they were always forced, the Asian community in Brockton Bay was always being forced to be under a supervillain, and they were also being treated badly and being forced to give their buddy. And now basically everybody is under the reign of a supervillain, and it's not as bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, they're not even doing most of those things anymore because they've generated enough
Mhm.
wealth outside of that and they've like stolen enough that they don't
Mhm.
need to resort to the same tactics. So like the actual day-to-day lives of the people of Rockton Bay have improved like to a ridiculous margin because they've like
Yeah.
cut out like forced prostitution. They've like cut out most drug gangs, like in terms of like
Yeah,
people who
it
are killing
seems
each
like
other over
the
stuff.
yeah, it seems like the lives of like the lower class and the people of color in the community have
Yeah,
had like
they've like
a
completely
grave improvement.
eradicated the fucking white supremacist gang.
The white supremacist gang and the gang that was like forcing things out of the Asian people in the community, and now these people are like finally safe, and then the white people and the upper class are like, this is so much worse than before, and not recognizing that. Because if your argument is that it's worse than before or whatever, that's totally fine, but you still have to recognize the huge improvement of in livelihood that is had for these other people, and before you just didn't care.
Yeah, and I mean like the people who used to live on the streets in the docks, like the ones that remain after all the disasters and stuff are like personally getting like reasonably wealthy for their community. They are like all housed like she has fixed so many of Brockton Bay's like problems in the docks and like her areas, and it's just like that doesn't matter to them because it's
Mm.
not the status quo. And like Danny
Mhm.
is, I think, starting to break out of it, especially like seeing the Undersiders. But like he was so status quo brained that even though he's like a workers' rights guy, like that's his job, then he's
Mhm.
still like, but we have to like believe in the existing societal structure, you know, the one that brought us to this point in the first place.
Mhm. Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is he's a lib.
Oh God, Danny, no.
He's supposed to be a workers' union guy. He's supposed to be a proper leftist, but he's a lib.
He's a union man.
Yeah. He's not just a
Listen, it was
hero. He's a
it
union
was
man.
2012, okay?
Yeah. I got you. I
He
got you.
didn't Danny didn't know any better. He
Mm-hmm.
was too busy looking at Reddit. I don't even know. What were people even using in 2012?
But
Parahumans Online?
he's not an internet guy. He's not on there.
No, he's just not.
He's like reading the newspaper. He's like yelling at the mayor. He's like going to town hall meetings. He's like getting contracts, doling out work. He's doing all the things.
Sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. Oh, Danny. I think that could be the end of our discussion on the audience participation question. This time, I have the question now. It's ready right now.
Yay.
22.y. What is your favorite vignette from this chapter and why? I mean, I know that that's a very basic question, but there aren't that many like vignette chapters like this.
Hmm.
We're not gonna get too many, portions, and I think that it might be different for different people. Mine, I'm a basic bitch, so I think that a lot of people are gonna be able to guess what I like.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I don't think that everyone's gonna be in line with my tastes on this. So that's what I'm hoping, that we get more diverse answers. Also, that
Yeah,
now that I've given the people enough time, that we'll get maybe 3-4 answers.
that would be great. I'll definitely think about it.
I don't know why, but thinking of the question for Charlotte was so hard. It's like, it's not that I find her uninteresting, because I do find her interesting, but I was like, what
Yeah.
is there to ask? It's kind of just like, isn't she cool?
Maybe she's just too reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah.
She doesn't do anything that's unreasonable in the chapter, and so we had nothing to jump off of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I think I'm gonna start the outro music. And because we can, I'm gonna redo the speed draw because it's one of the fastest ones. Wait from the start. Oh, Greg says cheers for the stream.
Cheers.
Cheers. So, this was Write Once, Read Many, 22.x, and we're listening to Imago by ScarlettXOX, who you can find at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Our Discord server link can be found in the stream description as well as the channel description. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow, and the full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. There is also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. Now you gotta say something to kick the stream off, to something final.
And then I say, do you guys ship Charlotte and Danny? I'm just kidding.
Oh no! That's worse! Well, the real question is, do you guys ship Charlotte and Forrest? And
Charlotte and Forrest.
We'll have to see in the future. Well, we'll see.
Look, they're holding hands too.
Are they? I thought it was overlapping, but I thought his hand was just behind her hair.
Overlapping, but it's foreshadowing.
Okay,
for
okay.
when they're in love.
Yeah, he's not overlapping with Tattletale.
No. Disgusting.
Oh no! Are Rachel and Gru overlapping?
Shush! They're just comforting each other.
Yeah, they're just sad.
It's been a complicated time for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so final goodbye. Yell a goodbye at the people.
Goodbye!